Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to Doctor and my fellow friend. So today our group will present about a drug addiction and drug abuse program in Malaysia. So we continue to the background of the problem. So addiction is described as a chronic relapsing disease marked by a compulsive drug seeking, sustained use despite adverse effect and permanent brain alteration. Drug addiction is a not new problem, and our nation is not immune to it, as it affects virtually every country in the world. In Malaysia, you can see that drug usage among a school student is believed to have begun in the early 1970s. Moreover, drug addiction is increasingly prevalent not just among adolescents but also among kids. It can be illustrated where Datuk Zulkifli Abdullah, a Director General of the National Anti-Drug AFIQAH, stated a total of 1,275 individuals tested positive for a different kind of drugs out of 42,409 secondary school pupils examined by nationally in 2019. In 2018, we can see that level of education primary schooling engaged in a drug abuse is at 8,779. Meanwhile, for a secondary school is at 64,164. However, the number it keep increasing, where in 2020 the number is increasing, where it show the number of a level education of primary school is at 10,456. Meanwhile, for secondary school is at 76,234. So drug addicts and abuse of drug at an early age will increase the country crime rate and also unemployment rate in the future. Moreover, in drug addiction, we can see that it will cause a crime rate increase and also unemployment rate increase. For example, the Royal Malaysia Police PDRM investigate a total 5,260 instances of domestic abuse, while the Kementerian Pembangunan Wanita, Keluarga dan Masyarakat receive a total of 2,540 reports of domestic violence during the same time, which is in PKP. Moreover, for unemployment rate, we can see that lead to abuse of substances and lead of drug addiction. According to previous research, unemployment was linked with substances misuse, admission for alcohol, marijuana, opiates, cocaine, and admission for other drugs. The reason is that drug usage may decrease a person's work chances both by lowering productivity and by reducing the likelihood of obtaining a job initially. Various efforts have been launched by the government to curb this social problem from happening. One of the efforts is by launch the Clinic One Malaysia Cure and Care program in 2012. The program objective is to curb drug abuse and drug addiction from continues to proliferate in the country. It also to provide a treatment and rehabilitation service to those with drug problem in the community. For the second effort, the government has been provided, which is a Squad 1 Malaysia. Squad 1 Malaysia is a group of volunteers who assist AADK in implementing treatment and rehabilitation and prevention program. This execution of program and activities by members of Squad 1 Malaysia is to generate volunteer energy holistically in aiding AADK to perform preventative tasks following treatment and rehabilitation towards community well-being. For the third government effort to curb the social problem is by introducing the PINTA program in 1998. The word PINTA stands for Program Intellect Asuhan Rohani. The PINTA program seeks to increase knowledge and build self-resilience in primary school children aged 10 to 12 who have been recognized as being at risk drug addiction. One of the goals of this program is to raise awareness among participants about the risks and the consequences of drug misuse. Rehabilitation program introduced by the government to curb the social problem in drug addicted and drug abuse on Clinic 1 Malaysia Cure and Care program in 2010 was considered successful. The reason is because the graph started showing that the number of drug abuse in 2012 reached a lower value. In terms of Squad 1 Malaysia, the program was considered as successful. By and large, the Squad 1 Malaysia program can benefit at-risk population in society. Other than that, according to previous research, the finding demonstrate that the Squad Automation Program successfully prevent drug addiction among at-risk individual on a variety level. For BINTA program, which the government introduced to address the social problem of drug addiction and drug usage among school children, is considered a failure. The reason for this is because that the total number of individuals assessed in early education, which is in primary school, involved in drug activities surpassed 10,000. Next, we continue to a significance of a problem. Generally speaking, that the most significant negative impact of drug addiction on society is that it can cause the peace and living environment of the community to become uncomfortable due to the rise in criminal activities, the majority of which are perpetrated by addicts. It was discovered that 40% of individuals in Accra were engaged in drug usage and dependence. Robbery, theft, murder, rape and other criminal acts are all associated with drug user. The BINTA program failure is due that is not focusing on the appropriate target population. The reason is that BINTA program target audience is school students in the country aged around 10 to 11 years old. Only 34,330 students participate in this program. It is only 6.4% of students are involved in the BINTA program. This demonstrates that the initiative was initiated only to provide adequate circumstances, not to meet the educational requirement or needs of the country's school children. Next factor contribute to the BINTA program failure is the allocation for the program split only 0.5% of the necessity. The allocation is insufficient to implement the program. It will have a determined effect on stakeholders. After that, presumption of no drug addiction in the school area is one of the contribution of the failure. The reason is that it can be seen that drug abuse and drug addicted majority have a primary and secondary level of education. Adding on, Parents-Teacher Association or PIBG involvement in anti-drug program still low. It shows the relationship between parents and teacher is lacking in curbing children involved in drug case and drug use in school. It can be compared to the ALERT program that had been implemented in Canada. The program of ALERT target audience is a school student aged around 12 to 14 years old. The target issue on the program is alcohol, cigarette misuse and marijuana. The ALERT program is a 2-year classroom curriculum comprising 11 courses and 3 booster sessions to be given of the following year. It focuses on alcohol, marijuana and cigarette usage. ALERT program outcome result in a 90% of reduced rate of drug usage. This program success can be proven by statistics of drug usage in Canada, where in 2011 the rate is from 330.07% drop into to 186.6% in 2020.
Despite the fact that drug abuse is strictly prohibited in all Malaysian schools, studies have shown that this delinquent behavior frequently stems from schools. Several problems have been detected that causes to the move of students who are engaging into the risky behavior. The first problem is related with family environment. Most cases happen when the student has a family with history of addiction. If parents are actively involved in drug abuse, their children may be at higher risk of developing drug abuse problem. As a result, the likelihood of children or students being exposed to or influenced by their families or relatives is much higher. This shows that genetic disposition will incline certain individuals to drug abuse. The other problem could be analysed is in terms of psychological factor. This is mainly related with the student's emotional well-being. The life pressure that students face today are more difficult and complicated. Due to the pressure, students may decide to use drugs to relieve their stress. This is because they want to change their unpleasant state of feeling boredom to excitement. According to National Anti-Drug Agency, NADA, individuals that engage with drugs due to feeling depressed has increased by years. And the last problem seen for students engaging to the risky behavior is due to influence from friends. Students who have friends who use drugs are more likely to use themselves, and friends are frequently the source of the drugs. Students may be open to inducement from drug-using friends in order to gain acceptance and a sense of belonging. As a result, friends play a significant role in drug introduction. Thus, this seems to become a concern because this factor will encourage more students to involve in drug abuse since early childhood. Several major stakeholders need to play their role in solving the problems. The first main stakeholder is National Anti-Drugs Agency, NADA. This agency has been charged to help the public to be out of the drug addict cycle by educating the public about danger of drug abuse and forming a strategic approach to create a harmonious society free of dangerous drugs. The second stakeholder involved is parents. Parental communication can help children control their emotions in a healthy way and prevent them from using drugs. Supportive parenting and monitoring also should be the role for parents, as it will help in lower rates of drug abuse. The third stakeholder is school. School could play the role in cooperating with the Parent-Teacher Association to address the issue raised. With the association, the identification toward the root cause of drug abuse among students could be tackled. The Ministry of Education, particularly the District Education Office, also an important stakeholder. The ministry is responsible to conduct various programs and activities in school to educate and create awareness on the danger of drugs. Each district education office plays its role in helping the Ministry of Education to curb the problem, such as making initiatives to make school a drug-free area through cooperation with police and NADA. So the problem addressed in this paper is to identify the best way in handling the issue of drug addict or addiction. This brings to the issue addressed whether NADA and other stakeholders should increase its effort to curb the drug addiction issue. The goal of having this policy is to achieve drug-free involvement among school students. This goal will be achieved with the help of several objectives to be obtained. The first objective is reduce individuals from involved with drugs by reduction of individual cases per year. With the objective achieved, it will help to achieve a downward trend of drug abuse among students. This is because with the reduction of number of students engaged to drugs, it could eliminate the risk and factor of involvement of drugs due to influence from friends that encourage an individual to perform the risky behavior. The second objective is to increase the level of awareness and knowledge to students by 25% in relation to drug use. Based on the statistic gained, it's shown that individuals with higher level of education tend to be into drug abuse rather than those who have no education background. This is true. However, regardless of education level, it is important for the needs to have an increase to the effort in increasing the level of awareness and knowledge for students in relation to drugs. The reason for increment of 25% is because with the 25% effort, the knowledge received by students may give impact and awareness to them to the danger of drugs and could lead to the realization that there is no beneficial impact to them as they use drugs. The last objective is to prevent students become addicted to drugs and from abusing them since early age of primary school. Early prevention need to be taken into action. This is where the respected stakeholders need to take part and play their own role and responsibilities to ensure the students are not trapped into drug activities. Many alternatives and programs should be performed in curbing this issue, not only to prevent, but also to produce results which help to achieve the goals of reducing the number of students involved with drug abuse that later will reflect to students free from drug abuse.
Hi, next we move to the policy alternatives. There are 4 policy alternatives we came up with. The first is on the school-based program named Program Anti-Dadah di Sekolah. Next on the creating an animation TV channel as a medium of awareness. This is the second alternative. The third alternative is community outreach program, and the last alternative is proposing new amendment under the Child Act 2001 for night curfew. The consequences of alternative for the first alternative is school intervention for drug prevention program will produce greater effectiveness to children to educate them. For the second alternative, the consequences is the education through animation channel is also part of blended learning that has positive impact to raise awareness among children. And for the third one, the community engagement is also good psychosocial support for children that help to restrain them from drug abuse, use and also drug addiction. And for the last alternative, the consequence is the implementation of new rule to set curfew for the minors from roaming unattended at night will control them from getting involved in social problem. Next, on the spillover and externalities for the first program, the program can produce spillover in the form of high participation from the school as well as the parents. The externalities, it will be a good parents-teacher association to minimize the challenge of drug abuse. And then creating for the second alternatives, the creation of new animation TV will produce spillover in the form of education and awareness for the children as well as the parent and family members. For the externalities, any audience who watch the TV channel also may indirectly benefited from the program and will create awareness among them. So for the third program, the spillover is to create a responsible community to cooperate in curbing the drug abuse issue, and the externalities produce a good community engagement with the rising problem, help the authorities to report on the social problem, reduce crime index, and also contribute to increase national security. And for the last alternative, the spillover is parents could monitor the children, increase participation of community, while social problem can also be reduced. And then the negative externality is people will feel their rights of liberty being deprived. Also for the positive externalities, minimize social problem or crime among society, and later increase economic value and less crime index will happen. Next, on the constraint, there are three constraints listed, which is the economic, political, and social. The economic, for example, the COVID-19 pandemic, the natural disaster like haze, flood, and then the financial constraint for the program, also economically unstable, which is economic downturn. For political, which is the change of government, like they need to do new election or campaign, and then political instability, which is the political turmoil, and also politically controversial towards the program. And then social is monitoring huge numbers of students, the emergence of various types of synthetic drugs, the new drugs, also socially controversial towards the program. Next, on the policy recommendation, which is selection of criteria and decision rules. So based on the four alternatives, there are three aspects that we look at. The first one is the low cost. For the first alternative, it is not low cost. However, it gives high impact and also fast execution to the people, to the target group. For the second alternatives, it is not a low cost program. However, it also will give high impact to the targeted group, which is the school children, but also not fast execution. On the community outreach program, yes, it is low cost, it is high impact and also fast execution. And for the last alternative, proposing a new amendment under the Child Act 2001, it is low cost and give high impact but also not fast execution. Next, on the preferred alternative, so we choose the establishing a school-based program, PADS, because it gives high impact, it is less controversial program, and also politically feasible. It reaches large numbers of school children easily, and also it is fast execution. So on the implementation strategy, we start with the paperwork writing and documentation. Also next, on the module planning and management, selection of proper location to conduct modules. Also we book for the transportation for the children, announce for the participation of students, which may take up to 80 participants for the program. And also we will launch and conduct the program for 3 days and 2 nights. And also the budgets are estimated for 20,000 ringgit each school. So monitoring and evaluation, the AADK and also the district education office may send their representative to engage and monitor the progress and process of the program, and also the outcome evaluation annually. So result of the evaluation should be stored in management information system under AADK and NOE, and also they can monitor the course of action, the course of program, its improvement to make it more effective and attractive to the primary school children. Next, on the limitation and also unanticipated consequences, first is the participation from society, particularly the parents, to allow their kids joining the program. So for the second limitation is children nowadays are too exposed to digital technology that minimize their physical activity. And for the last limitation, the financial constraints that they need to bear become a barrier to execute the program.